In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Dengar for the Black Series 6-inch line. This particular sample we're looking at is the archive version of him. The previous one was released in 2018, and it was towards the end of the red and black packaging. As far as I know, they're basically the same exact action figure. I think they both had the photoreal face, so there's really not any significant updates. So whichever version you get, is basically the same exact action figure. And I think as far as price is concerned, they're both pretty similar. I know you can still find the red and black one very cheap on Amazon and sites like that. So Dengar, probably one of the biggest peg warmers in Black Series history. If you go to your local Ollie's, if you have that store in your area, you're probably going to find a mountain of Dengars at this point in time. And along with him, you might find some Emperor Palpatines and some C-3POs, maybe a few other ones here and there, like Chewbacca, maybe Old Man Han Solo, Tarkin even. Dengar is probably the biggest one of them all, or at least that seems to be what I have found in the various Ollies I've traveled to recently. So I actually got this Dengar a couple months ago. If you've seen my video previously of the archive release of the Bouche Leia, I actually got Dengar here, Leia, and the Emperor Palpatine all at the same time. So I only paid $10 for this action figure, which is a fantastic deal for a great action figure. Despite him being a huge peg warmer and not being an extremely popular character, he's still a very nice action figure for the Black Series. And he arguably could be one of the best ones that Hasbro has made for the Black Series up to this point. I don't know about a top 10, but he could certainly make a top 50, and you'd have a strong case for that. And at this point, we have hundreds of Black Series action figures, so I think that's a pretty good ranking for him. What more can I say about this? So previously, I did review the TVC version of Dengar, which I will bring out here again in a little bit. But this one, I think that TVC action figure of Dengar is really good as well, and it's really hard to compare both of these two, and you can't really say one is better than the other. The only difference is there's some slight repaints between the two, and then the scale, obviously. We'll go ahead and take a look at this package here real quick, or what. There's really not a whole lot to say about this archive packaging. I've been holding on to this just so I can feature this in the video, but after this I'm probably just going to be throwing it away. So nice image of Dengar there from The Empire Strikes Back. He didn't have any lines in the film at all, and he's gone on to be one of the most iconic Star Wars characters. So we got Dengar, archive. Here's the image of the original action figure from 2018. That sounds about right. I did see that action figure at Walmart once, and never again at retail. I did not pick it up at the time. I think this was still when Black Series figures were only $20. And there's a description for Dengar in the various languages as well. Looks like we got Spanish, French, and German. And a few other ones here and there. Maybe Portuguese. So not really a whole lot I can say about the package. In fact, we'll just keep it out of the way for now. Just go and take a look at this great action figure. So I think the head sculpt's pretty good. I will say I think the TVC action figure did a little bit better job of getting a lot of the creases in his face, giving him that hardened look, as you can see here. But this one does have some nice differences, mainly being the scar across his face there. So it looks pretty good. The rags are more detailed, but I think the darker color looks a lot better. So I think I would have liked to have seen a darker shade for his rags for this figure. Still, photoreal turned out really nice on this. Nothing's blotchy. Eyes look good, very nice and defined. And he has nice detailing in his head wrappings. I did talk about a little bit of the history of Dengar in the TVC video, if you want to check that out. But basically he ends up suffering some brain damage at the hands of Han Solo, or at least that was the original story. I imagine it's changed a little bit since then, because I know the Clone Wars series features Dengar with the rags, and stories have changed so much over the years. I think that original story may have debuted even in the 80s or early 90s. So lots of changes since then. As far as the rest of the figure, has some nice armor. It's pretty similar to Imperial armor. I'm not sure of Dengar's backstory, if he was in the Empire at some point, or if he was in the Republic even. I think at the time of Empire Strikes Back, he's a much older character. So I imagine he's been around for a little bit. Nice detail in his armor. Has some scuffs and scrapes here and there. This pack here looks really nice, and it has a little bit of that droop to it as well, which I think is pretty realistic. Especially if you have a heavy pack, it's going to have a little bit of that sag to it. Some nice details in that. Some pouches around his belt here. He has a holster which sits extremely low, but does hold the pistol pretty good. And for his leg armor here, and for his boots. In terms of his articulation, he is super articulated. Yeah, this is still during the era where he has the double joint the knees. Really not a whole lot I can say more about the articulation. You know what the Black Series has at this point. He's got all the right points of articulation that he needs. Kind of stiff at the torso there. If you work with that a little bit, you can loosen it up. But yeah, he does have the double joint the knees. Still during that era. In terms of his weapons and accessories, he does have his signature rifle, which is a little bit different from the 3 3/4 inch one. That one has the brown stock, as you can see, and it has a much darker color rifle. While this one's just cast in all of a light gray. It looks pretty good. I like it. I think this might be a Stormtrooper rifle, actually. And he can hold it well in both hands if you want him to. I usually keep him like this, very similar to how we see him in Empire Strikes Back. Then he does have the pistol here, which I think this one might be totally unique to Dengar. This isn't just like a copy of Han's blaster or anything like that. Yeah, I think that might be a totally unique pistol. It looks pretty good. Has a scope there. Has the barrel. And an interesting compensator at the end. And he can hold it well in his hand. And the finger does wrap around the trigger. So you can get some nice poses with him. And he stands really good on his own. He has a nice footprint. And of course, the pack is a separate accessory and is removable as well. Stays in place pretty good. And you actually have the latch here at the top. Hold on a second. Just kind of showing off some of the details of his flight suit underneath. Much more hidden compared to this action figure. And he does not have a removable codpiece, as far as I can tell. We know that the 3 3/4 inch one does. I would prefer that it doesn't have it, like the Black Series one here. I think it's kind of annoying on this, because it's an extremely loose accessory. So it's nice to not have to worry about it with this. But anyways, I think that's pretty much all I can tell you about this Black Series Dengar here. It's nice to see both these figures together, and there's about a decade in between the two of them. The 3 3/4 inch one in the TVC line here came out in 2010, and the Black Series one, I'm trying to think when the archive one came out. It may have been 2021 or 22, somewhere in that range. Maybe a little bit sooner, maybe it was 20. He's been around for a little bit. Interesting that Hasbro did do an archive release of him, especially so soon after his original was re-released, or not re-released, but debuted. Some of the choices that Hasbro does for the archive line are interesting. But still, Dengar's a nice choice, nice action figure. Would highly recommend, especially since you can find him for a very good price. I wouldn't even pay $15 for this. You could easily find him for $10 or less. And if you have an Ollie's in your area, I would suggest you go check it out. There's a good chance you'll have some Dengars there, among many others, quite frankly. Specifically Emperor Palpatine and C-3PO. Between this one and those other two, it seems like those are the most common ones that people are finding at Ollie's these days. Of course, the Island Journey Rey, that's been out for 6+ years now at this point, is still readily available at Ollie's. So you might find some good deals here and there. As far as Dengar action figures are concerned, there is a decent one that was released in a comic pack. I think that one came with the Toby Dalla, or the other guy that looks similar to him. I'm trying to think what his name is. It's in a comic pack. You probably know exactly which one I'm talking about. I know it's not Toby Dalla. I think that one came with a Leia. It's the other guy that looks very similar in that green Mandalorian armor. There's also a Dengar that I think was released in the Saga line back in 2002. And I think it may have been re-released in the original trilogy line. Trying to think of the other ones. I think between these two Dengars here and those two, those are probably the best samples of him to date, outside the Kenner line, that is, if you're a big fan of that. There might be some other ones here and there, but those are probably the ones that most people are going to want for their collections, if they want Dengar. But if you want the definitive versions of Dengar for 3 3/4 inch or Black Series 6 inch, these are the action figures to get. And I don't think there's really any need to update or redo either of these two in any way, shape, or form. They're perfect action figures. I know they're not the most popular. They're not the ones that people are clamoring over. Maybe the TVC one they are, since it's been out of production for a while. But still, if you don't have Dengar in your collection, I would highly recommend jumping on it and getting one. As far as the Black Series Bounty Hunters from Empire Strikes Back, I have Dengar here, IG-88, the original, and then Boba Fett, but I am missing Zuckuss, Forlom, and Bosk. Zuckuss and Forlom are still pretty easy to get hold of, so I might get them at some point. Bosk, I've seen every now and then in retail, and I always passed up on him, but unfortunately he's extremely expensive. He could use a third round of an archive release, but at some point, at this point, now that I have basically half of the bounty hunters from that scene in Empire Strikes Back, I would like to try and get the rest of them at some point. And then once I do, I will do a video between the 3 3/4 inch and the Black Series bounty hunters from Empire Strikes Back. But in the meantime, I will do a video for the 3 3/4 inch ones. Anyways, that's all I can say about Dengar. Highly recommended. Nice action figure. I would suggest you jump on it now. But anyways, that concludes this review. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for plenty more reviews in the future. There will always be more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate all your support. And check out some links in the description if you haven't done so already. As always, thanks for watching.